let's talk about the idea that death does not exist. This phrase is also the title of a book, formerly called Death Does Not Exist, a new hypothesis suggested by cutting-edge quantum science. The book attempts to address some unresolved questions about the Akashic records, such as, where are these records located? What form do they take? Why is all information in the universe recorded? Unlike theological explanations, this book approaches these questions from a scientific perspective. The author of the book is Hiroshi Tasaka, a renowned Japanese scholar with expertise in business management, nuclear physics, and quantum mechanics. He is also a PhD holder in engineering. At 73 years old, Tasaka has a fascinating academic and professional background. During his university years, Tasaka studied at the University of Tokyo, initially majoring in nuclear physics. Later, in graduate school, he switched to medicine but eventually pursued a doctorate in quantum mechanics. This placed him in the same academic realm as scientists like Oppenheimer, although Tasaka studied in Tokyo while Oppenheimer worked in Germany. 6 years later, he joined the Pacific Northwest National Laboratory in the United States, which played a crucial role in the Manhattan Project and the development of nuclear reactor materials. While at this prestigious laboratory, Tasaka became deeply involved in cutting-edge research, eventually moving to the U.S. for an extended period. Upon returning to Japan, he joined the Japan Integration Research Institute, JIRI, a think tank under the Sumitomo Group. He rose through the ranks to become its chairman. Throughout his career, he represented the pinnacle of Japanese intellectual achievement. Tasaka's life took a dramatic turn when he suffered a severe illness that nearly claimed his life. This experience profoundly changed his outlook, prompting a shift in his focus from pure scientific inquiry to exploring the nature of life and death. In 2022, he published Death Does Not Exist, a bestseller that delves into the afterlife from a quantum mechanics perspective. At the beginning of his book, Tasaka outlines the current academic divide on the afterlife, which can be summarized into two camps. One, the scientific perspective. This view holds that the afterlife does not exist. When a person dies, their brain and heart stop functioning, resulting in the end of both the body and consciousness. This is the definition of death currently used in medical settings. Two, the theological perspective. This view asserts that an afterlife does exist. Depending on religious beliefs, a person may go to heaven, hell, reincarnate, or traverse an afterlife journey, as described in ancient texts like the Egyptian Book of the Dead. Most people, even those without a strong religious faith or those who identify as materialists, harbor some belief in the possibility of an afterlife. This belief drives traditions like visiting cemeteries to pay respects to the deceased. The core disagreement between science and theology lies in their understanding of consciousness. Science posits that consciousness cannot exist independently of the body. When the body dies, consciousness ceases. Theology, however, argues that consciousness is separate from the body and persists after physical death. A phenomenon that bridges these two perspectives is near-death experiences, NDEs. Medical science has documented numerous cases where individuals undergoing NDEs reported extraordinary sensations. Some describe leaving their bodies and observing themselves from above. Others see bright lights, fields of flowers, or a river separating life and death. Some even claim to meet deceased loved ones or witness the entire history of the universe. While these accounts might seem to support theological views, the experiences vary widely between individuals. Tasaka suggests that cultural and religious influences might contribute to these visions, potentially making them hallucinations rather than evidence of an afterlife. Tasaka believes that the reason science dismisses the afterlife is that current scientific frameworks are inadequate to explain it. On the other hand, theology assumes the existence of an afterlife without providing a rationale. Essentially, science cannot explain it. Theology does not explain it. As a scientist, Tasaka was initially a staunch materialist who dismissed notions of the supernatural, such as psychic abilities or premonitions. However, his extensive research into quantum mechanics revealed phenomena that defied conventional understanding. Coupled with his near-death experience, He began to reconsider the nature of consciousness and its relationship to the physical world. In his book, Tasaka explores how quantum mechanics might provide a scientific basis for understanding the afterlife, suggesting that death may not be the absolute end, but rather a transition that aligns with the principles of quantum phenomena. This intriguing hypothesis has captivated readers and sparked debates across scientific and philosophical communities. Today, let's delve into what Hiroshi Tasaka discovered and how his insights might change our understanding of life, death, and what lies beyond. This book presents Hiroshi Tasaka's scientific explanation of the afterlife as a researcher. He states that while the human body indeed perishes upon death, the mind, thoughts, and consciousness do not. He argues that death, as we understand it, does not exist. Instead, consciousness and spirit persist eternally in a quantum concept known as the zero-point field. The zero-point field stems from two key quantum mechanics concepts: quantum vacuum state and zero-point energy. Classical physics posits that a vacuum is completely empty, devoid of temperature or energy. However, modern science has shown that even in an absolute vacuum at absolute zero, a certain energy exists. This energy is called zero-point energy. Zero-point energy does not depend on matter or any specific object. It exists purely within space itself. Thus, wherever there is space, zero-point energy is present, permeating the entire universe. Experiments like the Casimir effect have empirically demonstrated this phenomenon. Physicists like John Wheeler have calculated that the vacuum energy in just 1 cubic centimeter of space may exceed the total energy observed in the entire universe. Another notable physicist, Richard Feynman, who was involved in the Manhattan Project, estimated that the zero-point energy within a space the size of a light bulb could theoretically evaporate all the oceans on Earth. One hypothesis suggests that vacuum energy arises from the balance of two immensely powerful forces, one positive and one negative. Although these forces cancel each other out, separating them would unleash an incomprehensibly vast amount of energy. This energy might even be linked to the origin of the universe. Many scientists theorize that the universe emerged from nothing via the Big Bang. If this nothing is the quantum vacuum, the universe may have been born from the slight imbalance of these forces, creating the cosmos. This leads to speculation that mastering vacuum energy might enable humans to create universes, catapulting civilization to a Type 7 on the Kardashev scale. The zero-point field, formed by the zero-point energy, spans the entire cosmos. Tasaka suggests that it serves as a repository for all information since the birth of the universe, similar to the concept of the Akashic records, but rooted in quantum mechanics rather than religious philosophy. Where does consciousness go after death? Tasaka explains that upon death, the human body ceases to function, but consciousness does not immediately vanish. Instead, it temporarily persists in a state akin to a near-death experience, NDE. In quantum terms, this consciousness transitions into the zero-point field, where it exists eternally as waveforms, essentially as light. Many NDE accounts describe common scenarios, such as moving toward a bright light. Tasaka correlates this phenomenon with the quantum idea that all information in the zero-point field exists as waves or light. Thus, moving toward the light may symbolize the process of integrating with this field. Once the body dies and consciousness detaches from it, Tasaka claims there is no experience of negative emotions, no fear, anxiety, pain, or sadness. Instead, one enters a state of supreme bliss akin to nirvana in Buddhism. He suggests that all initial physical or emotional suffering during the moment of death quickly fades away, replaced by this profound sense of peace. Is hell real? Tasaka argues that hell does not exist in the afterlife. Most religious depictions of hell emphasize physical torment, fire, torture, and suffering. However, if the body ceases to exist after death, physical pain is no longer relevant. Therefore, Tasaka concludes that hell, as traditionally described, is a construct created for social control. Its purpose is similar to that of heaven, to reward good behavior and discourage bad actions during life. If hell exists, Tasaka believes, it manifests not in the afterlife but in our earthly existence. The pain and suffering we endure in life may be the true hell. After death, we transcend these hardships and return to the serene state of the zero-point field. Why does Hiroshi Tasaka believe that after death, the body perishes but the spirit remains? Tasaka explains this using quantum mechanics. According to him, everything in the universe is fundamentally waves, vibrations of energy. While the body may appear to be material, it is, in fact, a form of energy as demonstrated by Einstein's mass-energy equivalence equation. Similarly, the mind or spirit is also a form of wave, but at its core, it is information rather than matter, since both the body and spirit are waves. When a person dies, the body's wave ceases, but the informational wave of the consciousness persists. This wave, representing one's awareness, merges into the zero-point field ZPF after death. In what form does this information exist in the zero-point field? According to Tasaka, the information exists as a holographic projection, not as an image, text, or code, nor as something intangible, but as a fully three-dimensional projection. Why holographic? Tasaka argues that all information in the universe is inherently three-dimensional. Attempting to store such vast amounts of data in a two-dimensional format would be insufficient. Thus, the information within the zero-point field is stored in a 3D structure, ensuring its completeness and accuracy. This explanation also ties to the idea that the right brain can access the Akashic records, or zero-point field, as the right brain processes 3D information, images, imagination, and spatial awareness, whereas the left brain, responsible for logic and language, operates in 2D. Tasaka suggests that this dimensional difference makes the right brain uniquely capable of tapping into the higher dimensional information stored in the zero-point field. Everything in the universe is waves. Tasaka believes that all events, including future ones, are stored as holographic projections in the zero-point field. However, he emphasizes that the future stored there isn't fixed. Instead, it represents all potential outcomes across parallel universes. Since the zero-point energy depends solely on the existence of space, it is self-sustaining and eternal, unlike a computer, which requires external energy to process and store information. The zero-point field functions autonomously, ensuring that all its stored information remains indefinitely. Tasaka also makes a distinction between records and memory. He argues that while records are two-dimensional and static, memory is three-dimensional and dynamic. This is why the zero-point field contains memories, not mere records. Tasaka uses his theory to explain phenomena such as past life memories, which have been reported in young children aged 2 to 8. These children often recall details they shouldn't logically know, such as memories of World War II or specific experiences of deceased individuals. Rather than interpreting these memories as evidence of reincarnation, Tasaka believes they result from children accidentally accessing the memories stored in the zero-point field. Since children use their right brain more frequently, they are more likely to connect with the ZPF. However, as they grow older and rely more on their logical left brain, this connection fades. Similarly, Tasaka hypothesizes that some psychiatric disorders may stem from individuals accessing fragmented or chaotic information from the ZPF. What appears as madness to others could, in fact, be access to extraordinary information. Tasaka's theory also accounts for why mediums can communicate with the deceased but not the living. The memories of deceased individuals are stored in the zero-point field, making them accessible. However, living people's information isn't stored there yet, as their consciousness hasn't merged into the field. Tasaka distinguishes between past and future information in the ZPF. Past information is subjective, as it consists of personal memories, while future information is objective and contains possibilities rather than certainties. This is why communication with future entities in the ZPF isn't possible. They haven't created memories yet. How to access the zero-point field. Apart from individuals born with the ability to connect to the ZPF, such as psychics or prophets, Tasaka suggests practices like dreaming, hypnosis, and meditation as effective methods. These states enhance belief, which Tasaka identifies as the core of the law of attraction. The law of attraction doesn't pull future events directly into your reality, but rather draws possible futures from the ZPF. Among the myriad possibilities stored in the field, the one you believe in most strongly becomes your reality. Tasaka equates this process to luck. Tasaka argues that there are no true geniuses. Figures like Einstein, Tesla, and Jobs weren't extraordinary because of higher intelligence or brain capacity, but because they had a strong connection to the zero-point field. In his view, genius is simply the ability to tap into this vast reservoir of universal information. What we consider psychic abilities, remote viewing, precognition, and mediumship, are, according to Tasaka, simply manifestations of one's capacity to connect to the ZPF. Tasaka's book uses cutting-edge quantum mechanics concepts to theorize about the afterlife. Based on the principle that information cannot be destroyed, he proposes that human consciousness persists in the zero-point field after death, where it remains eternal. However, Tasaka himself acknowledges that this is still a hypothesis, a scientifically logical assumption that requires further evidence. As science progresses, this fascinating theory may eventually be tested and validated. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe.